Hello and thanks for joining us on Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman. Here's what we're looking at. Republican State Representative Dan Ugaste shares his plan to keep the Bears in Illinois.
We wanted it to be a vibrant, living celebration of community.
The Obama Center has been up and running for about a week. Two Chicagoans who helped make it happen join us to share their stories.
Daley's Midnight Caper became a textbook example of mayoral clout.
And how Meigs Field became a public park in tonight's edition of WTTW News Explains. First off tonight, Governor J.B. Pritzker joined state lawmakers and reproductive rights advocates in Chicago today to sign the Reproductive Health Records Privacy Act into law. The measure, approved by the General Assembly last month, strengthens patient privacy protections by preventing the medical records of Illinois patients from being shared with other states. The signing comes on the 4th anniversary of the U.S. Supreme Court's Dobbs decision, which overturned Roe v. Wade and ended the federal constitutional right to abortion.
4 years ago, the right wing on the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, eliminating a right that women in this country have relied upon for nearly half a century. The consequences of that decision have been devastating. Healthcare records exist to treat patients, not surveil and punish them. I will always stand firmly on the side of privacy, dignity, and freedom, and this bill is yet another example of what has become a defining commitment of our state.
Fewer people in Cook County died of an opioid overdose in 2024 compared to 2 years before. A new report from county and Chicago public health officials says that 42% reduction, it reflects the largest reduction in overdose deaths across all U.S. counties since the national peak of the crisis in 2023. Officials say though the opioid OD mortality rate in Illinois is still much higher than the state and national rates, it plummeted by more than 37% between 2023 and 2024 versus barely a 4% decline the year before. Public health officials credit several factors, including the distribution of the overdose reversal medicine naloxone and wider access to medications that treat opioid use disorder. Missed out on tickets to the Obama Presidential Center? You will soon have another chance. The Obama Foundation announced that a new batch of tickets will be released July 1st for foundation members and July 8th for the general public. While the center's outdoor spaces and library are open to everyone, admission to the museum, which features exhibits and memorabilia highlighting President Barack Obama's time in office, that requires a ticket. Tickets first went on sale in May and sold out within hours, with reservations booked through November. The latest release will cover visits from September through January 2027, giving those who missed the initial sale another opportunity. And we'll hear more from some Obama Center insiders later in the program. Up next, a Republican plan to keep the Bears in Illinois. That's right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by the Alexandra and John Nichols family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
The Chicago Bears say they're advancing plans for a stadium in Indiana. Some Illinois lawmakers, though, insist that's not a done deal. The General Assembly ended the spring session without passing a bill to incentivize the Bears to build in Illinois. But conversations haven't stopped. And while Democrats hold supermajorities in both chambers of the General Assembly, Republicans are not waiting around to present their own plan. Joining us now to talk about a new mega projects proposal is State Representative Dan Ugaste, a Republican from Geneva. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So the Bears say they are moving forward with this plan to build a stadium in Hammond in Indiana. Why do you think that they could still be lured to stay in Illinois?
Because they haven't said, okay, we're done. We don't want to talk anymore. We don't want to hear from you. We are moving to Indiana. That's going to be our home. What they're doing is they're advancing what Indiana has proposed for them, and they're not going to wait to see if we're going to come up with a plan anymore. They're going to move forward in case that is the only plan they feel that's acceptable to them. that they then must take and go forward so they're not further delayed.
Okay, so you think they're proceeding?
Sure.
Because they can't stop, of course, but if Illinois gets it together, they could still put that down and come back.
Well, I think so, especially since there's at least one site we know they're very interested in Illinois, and that's in Arlington Heights. Now, the mayor of Chicago has been proposing another site. I've heard them tell or say in public that they don't believe that's a suitable location for what they want to do. But since then, a couple other sites within Cook County have been proposed as well. Representative Tarver has mentioned something about the old Southworks facility where U.S. Steel was located. I know McCook has a facility where they're talking maybe the Bears could locate. So wherever it is, I just like for them to stay in Illinois, in part because I like the team, but more so because I want that economic development here in Illinois.
You voted against the first mega projects bill that passed the House back in April. What
Sure.
were your concerns with that one?
Biggest concern was it didn't protect taxpayers, local taxpayers, and it did not have enough to provide statewide property tax relief for all taxpayers. There was something there, but as the governor's office pointed out within a few days after, it didn't amount to much. So what I'm looking for is something that will start providing real tax relief to property taxpayers here in Illinois on a statewide basis. That's every homeowner, every business owner, anyone who owns property would get property tax relief. And then we start building on that process to provide even more.
So tell me about your proposal then.
Sure. The two proposals I have within the bill I'm putting together to keep the Bears here, at least for property tax relief, are every referendum from this point forward, or if it passes, would have to go on the general election ballot. Right now, they're oftentimes placed on the consolidated election ballot or the primary ballot when not nearly as many voters show up and voters just aren't nearly as in tune. I don't think you really get the whole community's input on whether or not they want their property taxes to increase to fund whatever project it is that's being proposed. We put it on the general election ballot, many more people show up. People are much more in tune to the elections, what the issues are on the ballot, and that way we get a true sense of what the community wants. They could be for it, they could be against it, it's up to them, it's their community. But at least then, most people are weighing in within the community. Also, there's a provision, or it's I guess a loophole in current state law, where if a local taxing district currently wins a referendum, passes and gets bonds from, based off that referendum to fund whatever facility, they can just automatically roll over those bonds without ever having to go back for another referendum to get the same amount of money again. This bill would stop that from ever happening again. Once the bonds are paid off or it comes to maturity, it would be done. If the local taxing district wants more money, they'd have to go back to the taxpayers on a referendum and ask them again, do you want this that we want to use the money for? It's as simple as that. I think that's the way it was intended from the word go, but it just doesn't happen that way.
All right, so Governor Pritzker, he spoke about this yesterday and about the involvement that he would like to see from the Bears. Here he is.
I think that, as you know, it takes a bill, and that's really what we need them to put together, are the provisions of a bill. It's one thing to articulate generally what you want. It's another thing to actually say we'd like a provision like this, a provision like that. And those are, many of them anyway, already written. They have lobbyists who can help them write those provisions. There are legislators who would help them write the bill. And again, then they need to go and talk to people about the various provisions to get support for it.
Have you spoken with the Bears about your plan?
I have not, and that's been intentional. They've been speaking with a lot of people in Springfield. Now, would I be happy to meet with a representative from there and to hear what their thoughts are? Sure, but at the same time, they don't need to be speaking with every one of us. I'm looking at what's been proposed so far, what I think would work based on public statements of the Bears as to what they want, what they're looking for from Illinois in order to move forward, what is in the best interest of our taxpayers if we do this, and using that to go forward with a proposal. Once they see it, if they have a comment on it and think that something needs to be done, be happy to do it. But I'm also basing it on what I know has passed through the House and Senate and what I think might be able to pass going forward based upon people's concerns I've heard and other things, so that we can actually get this done and move on, because there's a lot of other issues facing the state we need to address.
Right. And that said, you know, state Republicans, you all are the super minority, so you don't have enough votes to pass something on your own. What do you see as the path forward for this bill? So
the path forward for me to this bill is that we start working in a bipartisan manner. And that was the path forward from the word go, as far as I was concerned. When Leader Buckner first brought a mega project pilot bill to committee and we made comments on it, he took notes exactly what we were commenting on and asking about, and a lot of that was built into the next one. Not all of it. We didn't quite get there, which is why I didn't vote for it, but it went on that way. If we would work together, what I think you would have is enough property tax, a protection for property taxpayers in and around wherever the stadium gets built. You would also get property tax relief for all taxpayers statewide, and something the Bears and other developers, if it's not just a Cook County bill alone, could use. And if we do that, everyone wins. But you have to work across the aisle, because I don't know that the votes are there on the Democrat side of the aisle alone, because it appears they're not.
All right, so obviously we'll see when exactly you all end up back in Springfield to discuss all of this. State Representative Dan Ugaste, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Up next, meet some people working behind the scenes to make the Obama Center a success. It's been less than a week since the grand opening of the Obama Presidential Center, and it has truly taken a village to get there. A huge behind-the-scenes cast helped curate the center's sights, sounds, and tastes. Chicago natives had a hand in everything, from the performances at the celebratory opening to the center's culinary space. Here's a bit of the performance from Chicago native Eddie Vedder and young local musicians.
Today is not just another day. We've been called, and I can hear it clear finally.
If I can say what I want to say and be the one I want to be, there'd be no one who can take my place.
Freshly recovered from that bonanza of an opening ceremony are some of the folks who helped to make that very performance possible. Andre Daniels, adjunct professor at Columbia College Chicago and regional director of Guitars Over Guns, the folks you just heard playing, and Chef Cliff Rome, who's a chef partner at Bam Joy, which provides food services and catering operations across the campus, also the owner of the restaurant Peaches. Are you all still on cloud nine from last week?
I think so, right?
Yeah, no, I haven't left.
haven't gotten down at all. I had the privilege of being there as well. Both of you were there last week at that opening ceremony. What was your reaction to being there? What was it like, Chef? First to you.
Oh, it's crazy. It was beautiful at the same time, right? Just knowing what that property looked like prior to that, right? And seeing that, it was wonderful. It was an amazing visual to see Stony Island look like that and be occupied by so much talent and history, and just the culture of it all was unbelievable.
Andre?
Yeah, like it was surreal, because I remember the meetings that they would have with the community, and they would show us like the renderings, and then also have us like have input, and to see it all come to fruition, and it looked exactly how they imagined it to be, and to see like spaces like the hill being utilized by the kids, and the kids are rolling down the hill. I was like, wow. I was like, that was so surreal to me. It was a beautiful
sight. No.
Yeah.
A hill in Chicago. What stood out to you the most?
I mean, well, one, the amount of people who came down to support. I think that was one of the most beautiful things, because it's like everybody that you could think of was present, and then also just for the fact that it was coming together for a bigger cause. Like it felt like, almost like I remember when I was watching, like when Obama was running, I was like, it felt very hopeful in that way. Like it almost was like I forgot what time and place we were. Like it wasn't 2026 again. Like it was something different.
So you and the young people from the organization that you work with, Guitars Over Guns, you all helped create and were featured in that song that we just heard Eddie Vedder play called Better Believe. Tell us about the organization, Guitars Over Guns.
Yeah, so Guitars Over Guns is a music mentoring program. We're in middle schools, high schools, and community spaces, and we hire musicians from the scene to be year-long mentors in these spaces. And it's not just guitars, we do drums, piano, bass, we do vocals, rapping, engineering, photography. And a lot of times people think about just like the music lessons, but it's also like the connection that you have, the guidance that you provide, any sort of ways that you could prevent them from falling into some of the predatory practices of the music industry. Like all of that information that goes into the wellness of the entire child, that's what we do. And we've been operating in Chicago for 13 years now. And it's been one of the most phenomenal and most transformative processes that I've been a part of.
Chef Rome, you had the culinary experience at the center's restaurant, Tafari's Kitchen. What's on the menu?
Oh man, anything from lasagna to burgers to Moroccan chicken, all the things that President Obama curated himself, right? Which was amazing, because in the beginning we threw a whole bunch of things at the wall. And then he went through the menu, and most people were thinking like, wait, did he actually? I said, he did. He literally, give me a pen, took the pen and walked through each part of it. Because the most important thing was that he wanted everything to be approachable. It had to be good, right? It has to be consistent. But what we all know is that it's a cultural institution. It's an attraction, right? And so he did not want people whipping out their phone trying to read or define what was on the menu, right? I want it very approachable. And so I think that we got really close to that by offering or creating those offerings the way that he would want them. Approachable,
but food that he would order, food that he likes.
Oh, 100%. The chili, yes. He was like, don't touch the chili. Right?
You kidding me?
Right? Yeah. Yeah. So those are things, and I think that it gives us a great opportunity not only just to incorporate local vendors from Chicago, but even utilizing the product that's on the rooftop at the garden, right? So the goal is to be able to use our culinary chops and not just do 4-star Michelin, dinners or things like that.
Right.
It's really about incorporating local flavors and ingredients and saying, hey, this is right upstairs.
Right, and this is, and like we grew it right here.
Yeah.
Andre, you also helped create the vision for the media center, and there's a lot going on down there. There's a podcast studio and some other stuff. Why did you think it was important for the community to have access to recording studios like that? Yeah,
well, at first when they first told me they were creating a studio, they asked me for recommendations for high-end gear, and I gave them some of the like top-of-the-line equipment that I could think of. And whatever my dream studio equipment would have been, that's what I gave them, right? And
so your dream studio.
Exactly. I was like, look, I can never afford this, so I'm going to give you all of this, right? But then instead, when we had this conversation, I said, well, who is going to have access to all this? And they said, the community. And I said, well, let's scale this back, because you don't want this equipment to be intimidating to some people, to the point where they're like, I don't even want to touch this, because if I mess this up, then it's on me. So instead, I was like, let's actually have like a bridge in between, so that these things are some of the equipment that they might be familiar with. If somebody's first time at a studio or even their home studio, they have this equipment and they're ready to be like, oh, I know what this is. I can just plug this up. I know how to utilize this. I know what this button means. And it takes away that intimidation, or the fact that they have access to it and they can maybe buy this on their own and have that at their home as well.
Chef, I actually just happened to be back at the Obama Presidential Center yesterday for a separate event, and I noticed a line outside Tafari's Kitchen.
Yes.
And the line got longer, and people are waiting patiently. I also noticed a member of the staff going down, like walking down the aisle, holding a menu saying, we're out of X, we're out of Y. Which tells us that it's popular, but what are some of the challenges, and what's business been like in the last 5 or 6 days?
It's always challenging, right? When you're dealing with a mass amount of people, the idea is that most times, from a consumer side, we're like, you should be ready. It's not that we're not ready. I think that just anticipating what the volume is going to look like is always going to have its set, of challenges. And we have to be very realistic around. You're coming to a cultural institution where you're already waiting to get inside, right? And so the idea is that there's going to be a wait. And so we want to make sure that we meet all the guests where they are, and we want to make sure that we put our best foot forward. But it's all part of the practice. I won't make excuses for it, right? We want to make sure that we could over-deliver. But I think part of this process is we're dealing with food, right? And we're dealing with products that we want to make sure that we could make the freshness on time, because it's not like it's food that's just sitting there, right? Mm-hmm. It's things that we're making from scratch, and it's definitely things that we're doing with a whole bunch of integrity. But I mean, having long lines just means that something's happening, right? Something's happening.
Whatever's in there, people they want it. Andre, so the young folks with guitars over guns, right? 14, 15, 16 years old. Once you've played on stage with Eddie Vedder, what's next? What's next for your young people in about 45 seconds before we run out of time?
That's interesting. My hope is, one, that they still are able to be kids. Is that, despite the fact that they had this very high level moment, that they could still kind of like zoom back down and be like, you know what, I'm still 13 years old and I'm prepping for my first year of high school or whatever it might be. But then on the other end, there's some opportunities that are presenting themselves. There's some performance opportunities that present themselves. Eddie Vedder wants them to open up for him at the United Center whenever Pearl Jam comes back. So they got a lot of work to do. I feel like I got to get them back in rehearsal and put my manager hat back on.
Good luck. Yeah. Good luck on that one.
We played with Eddie Vedder. We're good now.
We're good now.
We got it. All right, that is where we have to leave it. Congrats to both of you, Andre Adtu Daniel, Chef Cliff Rome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Up next, how an airport became a park right on Chicago's lakefront.
Reflecting the people and perspectives that make up our communities, this story is part of Chicago Tonight, Black Voices.
Chicago has a magnificent park you may not know about. And with this being the first week of summer, we thought we'd give you a history lesson about it. It's on Northerly Island between the old McCormick Place and Soldier Field, and it used to be an airport. So what happened? Our Eunice Alpasan has the story in tonight's edition of WTTW News Explains.
We all know O'Hare and Midway, but along the lakefront near Soldier Field and the Adler Planetarium is a little strip of land that was once home to a small airport called Meigs Field. That was until one March morning a little over 20 years ago when the city awoke to find Mayor Richard M. Daley had the airport bulldozed in the middle of the night. This audacious covert bulldozing operation was the conclusion to a years-long political battle to turn the airport into what it is now, Northerly Island Park. So how is this even possible? First, let's back up. By the mid-20th century, Meigs Field was the busiest single runway airport in the country. It was primarily used by politicians and business elites to jet in and out of downtown. But Mayor Richard M. Daley had other plans for the land. The man-made peninsula that Meigs Field sat on was owned by the Chicago Park District. And for years, some Chicagoans, Daley included, argued the lakefront land should instead be used as a park open to all residents. But a series of political deals and pushback from aviation and business advocates kept the airport open. So Daley hatched a plan. By cover of night in March 2003, the mayor's demolition crew arrived at the airport and carved giant X's into the runway, rendering it unusable. And all of this was done without telling the city council, the state, or the Federal Aviation Administration. The surprise move left several planes stranded. Daley defended the stunt as a necessary post-9/11 security measure to prevent planes from flying near downtown Chicago. But critics and pundits say the mayor was merely dodging a prolonged and expensive legal battle with various groups fighting to keep the airport open. No matter the purpose of the plot, Chicago had to pay the FAA a $33,000 fine and an additional $1 million to repay grant funding. Daley's Midnight Caper became a textbook example of mayoral clout, and Meigs Field became Northerly Island Park, home to an outdoor concert venue and an urban nature sanctuary.
And you can watch our whole series of explainers on our website. Everything from how the city's grid system works to why Chicago's pension debt is so high. Just go to WTTW.com/explains. And that's our show for this Wednesday night. You can get Chicago Tonight streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, WTTW.com/news. And join us tomorrow night at 5:30 and 10. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Brandis Friedman. Thanks for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm that serves the needs of clients in the Chicago area and throughout the nation.